Welcome to Sacred Not Saved, a space for the curious, the deconstructing, the mystics, and the misfits.
We're soul tribe, soulmates, soulmate friends through and through in many different dimensions. And for us, I would honestly say in every dimension. Um,
Multiple lifetimes.
and multiple lifetimes, multiple dimensions. And we found each other in this life. And thank God for that, because I don't think that we would have made it through our awakening so successfully and through the dark night of the soul and through honestly our becoming, where we shed our old identity and we started to tap into our true essence without each other. So hi, I'm your divine reflection.
Hi, friend.
Hi.
Hello, Cosmic Mirror.
Yes. Yes. And
Yeah.
for everyone listening, welcome to the Cosmic Mirror.
Yeah.
We're here to reflect you back to you and just to remind you that it's safe to shine really brightly and that now is the time on earth for you to turn your light all the way up, brighter than is comfortable, brighter than feels necessary or rational or reasonable. Because this is not a time to be holding back. So hopefully we can transmit some of that energy and some of that encouragement and some of that support that we've had, this incredible divine support through one roller coaster of a cosmic ride. That I remember there was a point where God said to me, and I found out later that God, he, she, they,
It.
divinity, yeah,
Be all that
the
is.
the one, um, that the one has said to multiple people a little while back, are you ready? Are you strapped in? Because it's going to be a wild ride.
The best ride of your life.
Yeah, yeah. And that is the ride that we're all currently on. And that's the ride that I found myself on. And that's the ride that you found yourself on. And that's the ride we're going to talk about today. So yes, I haven't introduced what I officially do in the world. So I'll give you a super quick thing on that, but hopefully it'll also come out in the conversation as well. So I currently help people cross over from old timelines into new timelines. And I do it by anchoring them into the big vision of who they are, but also into their most authentic self, the truest self, like the big self that you came here to be. Um, and then we close out all these old versions, all these old identities. And chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you are in a process where you have old identities crumbling. You may have had some crumble already. And you may be in the phase where you feel a little bit lost, because that's very very natural, and I want to encourage you to like get lost because getting lost is probably the best thing you can do. Losing your anchor is probably the best thing you can do, because it will light you up to possibilities and to pathways in this world and in this universe and in this life and within yourself. Infinite possibilities and pathways within yourself that will open you up to understand that the authentic self that you've always wanted to be has always been with you. She or he has always been with you. And that person and that soul is valid, because a lot of what we experience in Christianity and religion can sometimes make you feel like the person that you dream of being and the mission that you came here for and who you are is not valid unless it fits within a paradigm and a framework.
And I can speak from my personal experience with you that that's exactly what you do. You shift timelines. You hold beautiful space for people to actually uncover their authentic self, the self that remembers love and remembers what it was like to be one with the divine before we even came here and who we truly came here to be. Yes, yes, yes.
It's not oneness if our in our relationship with God or the divine is eclipsing who we are.
Yes.
And this is part of the beautiful work that you're doing here on the planet, is to illuminate some of those areas where the limitations have actually held back the light and actually held back the truth and have put people into small boxes
Yeah.
that they can't breathe in and they can't move and they feel suffocated, and they're trying to squeeze and contort themselves into a version that will be approved of by a model that is very quickly in the story of humanity becoming outdated.
Yes, it is becoming outdated because it's not fitting us anymore. We're needing
No,
to expand beyond it. And I think Christianity, though you and I were in a sect that was very free, right? Compared to most Christian boxes. But even that couldn't hold us.
that's the thing, is that Christianity is a paradigm. We're taught that it's the whole world, and when you're in it, it is your whole world. But it's a paradigm, and paradigms come with principles and they come with a set of rules, just like the greater universe that we're in right now, or the earth has laws to it, like gravity and all of that. Christianity and religions have a paradigm on them. And so if that paradigm is this big, it's too small for some really big souls. And this is the juncture that often leads big people with big destinies
Yeah.
into an awakening process and a deconstruction process, because they bump up against the edges and the limitations of that paradigm. And something inside their soul says, I can't grow any further in this. I can't. There's no more. There's a point where you're in it and you're learning the principles and you're growing, and it's actually fruitful for a season. It's beautiful and it's fruitful, and you'll go, this is giving me life. And it's helping me to define a part of who I am. And it's walking me through a necessary identity phase. But then if you're a really big soul, that you're going to, when you reach the point of outgrowing it, it's unmistakable. You might not know it at the time. You looking back, you'll go, oh yeah, that's what was happening then. But what you will feel is a lot of frustration, a lot of hurt, a lot of almost internal wounding around, why is it that I don't fit into this? And you'll
Mm.
turn it on yourself for a season, right?
Why
Possibly
am
for
I
quite
not
a few
being
years.
seen? Somehow the true me just does not feel like it's seen. And you could even have a platform in Christianity. You can have influence and people can say, "Wow." I remember people would be like, "Wow, Joy, I want the walk with God that you have. I want the intimacy and the divine connection and the dance. Like, how do you have such a raw, authentic relationship with God?" And yet, still part of you just doesn't feel seen, right? It's wild and bizarre. I think part of it is because we're outsourcing our power, right? We're still looking at God as the other. How did that show up for you in the beginning when you realized, wait a minute, I'm still playing small. The belief system that I'm believing is telling me that I'm one with Christ, and and I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. And yet somehow I still don't feel big. I feel small. Was there a
Yeah,
time, a season, a moment where that actually clicked and hit you?
yeah. And I think looking back, he said, I can do all things through Christ, except be my authentic self.
Tell me about that. So,
Mm.
so your authentic self felt like some of those spaces inside of you had to hide in order to be accepted by
Yes,
what,
so
Christians or by God or
both. I would say more Christians and the framework of Christianity. And I come from a ministry background. I was a minister for several years. I come from a ministry family, both a business and a ministry family. Um, the veins of a prophetess run through my blood. And so you got to know that the bonds ran so deep for me in this, and still do in so many ways that lie in the mystical realm that is beyond the comprehension of logic. You cannot interpret some of the divine cosmic roles that we've all been asked to play according to logic. And that's half the problem, right? Is take a prophetess who was designed to do for God's purposes here on the planet, but then you tell her that the purposes look like this, and that's her on a stage in a church, only allowed to speak about certain things, only allowed to prophesy about certain things, only allowed to preach about certain things, only allowed to wear certain things, only allowed to move her body in certain ways. And and then you tell me that you're not trying to tie her power up in her hands behind her back.
and
And I
keep her
think
in a neat little box.
in a neat little box. And
Yeah.
that's the problem, is that we have a lot of incredibly wild people, and wild not as in whatever
Rebellious
Christianity wants to
or
define that as.
right? Or I want to just go sin and live in self-pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. Although there's a part of that self-pleasure journey that you and I walked each other through, it was vital to the reclamation, where you've got to take some of the thing off so that you can come back into integration, because you have to disown such strong parts of your being. Um, so okay, you asked me origin point, right? Like when did it start for me? So shortly after you and I were in ministry school, we're talking 2021 now. I heard God say to me very clearly, and this is the same God who has spoken to me my whole life since I was a little girl. Um,
You were familiar with that voice.
yeah,
Yes.
that's a voice that is the voice of my person. That's the
Ooh.
voice that is the
Yeah.
same, closer to me than the voice of my parents, who I've heard since the day I was born and before that, and they prayed over me in the womb. It's a voice I know intimately. And so I want to say that because I hear a lot of people, the chatter in the background is, it wasn't the same voice. It wasn't the same God. You were deceived. There was a moment where you were deceived, but it's very hard to say that to someone who's built a relationship with God and the divine on a very intimate level over, at that time it would have been 34 years, I think. Yeah, 34 years. 34 years of building with one person. You know them, trust me. And God said to me, do you, I'd been questioning some things, and we'd been at ministry school, and there were parts of it that was really beautiful. And this was supposed to be the moment, right? That everything clicked for me after feeling like I didn't fit in every single church that I went to. And in every setting, there was always this thing of like, a little whisper in the background, you don't belong. And I would see it and I would feel it, and I would feel which I'll hopefully we'll get a chance to explain what that is so people can understand why that's part of the journey. And so I'd just been to this, wonderful, gorgeous ministry school that was supposed to be the Mecca and the ultimate freedom of expression and freedom to be in your flow with God. And you and I had been questioning, and we had been like, some stuff's good, some stuff's really, really not good. And so it was the following year, a couple months later, and honestly, that experience broke my heart. I do want to say that. It broke my heart being there. I got home from that and my heart cracked in two because of some of the stuff that I saw, the competitiveness, the performance, the need to prove how close you were to God or how much you were able to flow with the Holy Spirit, and how
The
people were
ladder
measured,
climbing.
the
Yeah.
ladder climbing. And now we were just climbing the ladder to God, right? It's not climbing the corporate ladder or the ladder to capitalistic success, but it was climbing the ladder to God, who was God's most closest companion. You want to
Yes.
talk about toxic?
Yes. Lots of
So God said,
performance. Lots of performance. Yeah.
and when you're an authentic soul, you will reject performance over and over and over again, even sometimes when it feels like to the detriment of your own journey or your own success or your own ability to make it in life. It's
Well,
this kill switch inside that says, I cannot. I cannot partake in that. So you'll try. Oh my God, do I wish sometimes I could perform better? That would have been that would have saved me from a lot of very awkward situations and a lot of therapy, I'll be honest. um
well, you could have performed better. Honestly, you could have, but you would have had to deny parts of yourself in order to fit within the framework that they were asking you to fit into. Not verbally. This was not an overt expectation. It was very implied by the atmosphere, by just the way things were set up. It is like, how can I get noticed? How can I please in order to get possibly a bigger platform or work with certain people or just it's interesting, have the influence that my soul knows that it came here to have. It's like this false it's like this false it's counterfeit. It's a counterfeit of influence. Now, can you still influence the people still in this mindset? Sure. I will give people that. But the extreme, powerful, authentic influence that our souls are came here to have, we would have had to self-abandon so many spaces. And then that just leads to soul death. And that's, I think, what you're talking about is like my soul was dying, it felt like. Is that what I'm hearing?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's the craziest paradox to hold, and I'm well aware that I've still got to tell you guys my origin story. So let's just hold that like over here, right? We'll just have it hanging and it's coming. But there's so much good stuff coming through right now. We just got to tap into it. That's the ADHD, right? Um,
It's real. It's real. Squirrel. Squirrel.
and this always happens with us, by the way, guys, is it multiplies between the two of us. So it's just like keep up, don't hold, don't get attached to an idea because we may not come back to it. We're going to try our best. We also may only come back to it in like 30 minutes. So just putting that out there.
Can I say, I'm
Yeah.
so struggling with not interrupting you. If if anybody knows when we have phone calls, it's like I am the interrupter. I'm like, uh-huh, yeah, and this squirrel. Oh, big red ball. Oh, you know, and I'm doing my best. I'm trying. I'm
You're
trying.
doing so, you're doing so good. Like
I got my
I feel
coffee to
like
keep my monkey mind like, yeah, We're good.
I feel like we're coming across, very way more together than we usually do. But here's what I want to say is by allowing ourselves to diversify our thoughts and just follow the pings, we come to the most remarkable insights, breakthroughs, open spaces, open expansive spaces within ourselves. So we hope to gift you all with that in our grand wanderings with our thoughts. Okay, so you said, all right, let me just give you guys my origin story, then I can cross that off the list. So
Close
God,
that tab.
yeah, just close that tab. So God said to me, 2021, Kate, do you want to jump off the edge of the known world with me? And you will have nothing but a thin tether to Jesus, which later, a couple months later, that would have come under question. Not what he said. And God was a he to me at that time. And I said, yes. I thought you'd never ask.
You're like, I have permission now? Finally. Gosh, what took you so long? And God's probably like, no, Kate, what took you so long? Kidding, kidding. But yeah,
Yeah.
it's
And then
like
God said to
it's a
me,
liberation of the soul.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then now bear in mind, I had no idea I was getting myself into. I had no idea I hadn't,
You
this kicked off when
can't.
I wake.
You can't know.
And God said to me, God said, I'm going to show you some things that you can't unsee. Do you still want to see them? And being the curious being that I am, I was like, of course. I mean, yeah, that
Yes,
sounds
please.
great.
Take me beyond the veil. What?
And I did not know the weight of those words. I think that's one of the things I've always appreciated about God is, God can deliver a punch in one sentence that will keep you busy for a couple of years. Like the time that God said to me, I want you to live with an open heart. Boom.
There was so many different facets to that one word, that one um download, that one
Yeah.
aha moment. And tying it back to the fact that it was familiar. It was familiar. It was love speaking to you.
It was love. It was so lovely. And I didn't know it was going to open up afterwards. And I look back, and this was the season that you and I really walked each other through. Chunks just started coming out of me of deconstruction. It's like I had full permission. I see that now to question everything, everything, everything. And it was scary when it happened. There are times when it's terrifying because you feel like you're losing your bearings. And I think the most terrifying part in it is that how do you, at that time, I didn't know how or have the language to explain it to the people closest to me. Because you keep thinking, like, I chose this, right? I chose this on some cosmic level, and I've kicked off a process now that I know I could at some point go. But when it starts, and chances are, if you're listening to this podcast, you're gonna be somewhere on that journey. When it starts, it's like, ah. And I use a scripture.
Go
He
for it.
who started a good thing in you will complete the work, right? So
Preach.
yeah.
Yes. Well, that's another, on a side note, squirrel note. You and I would converse and we'd be like, I remember calling you up, be like, Kate, I know what this scripture means now. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. This is the actual resonant truth behind especially what Christ would say, what Jesus would say, like his words. And you're like, whoa. But there was so much revelation weaved into that season where scripture became alive again. It almost like had to completely die and be like, whoa, whoa, the Bible is not inerrant. The Bible is not my life's rule book, but it is sacred. And it's that fun dance when it starts to come back online and you're like, wow, okay, there is some cosmic truth in this, but it's not what we were taught. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And to that, I would really say, for if you find yourself in that position, as somebody who's listening, if you find yourself in that position, trust what's unfolding. Trust, trust yourself, trust the guidance, trust the unknown. It will make sense later on, but you need it to not make sense, because the level of sense and the framework that you've had for what makes sense is the thing that God's trying to get rid of, that the divine is trying to get rid of. And so is your own soul, to be like, this is not the fullness of what I have for you, even though it's what everybody told you is what you should, is who I am.
And can I say you did a beautiful job walking through that with grace? Your full surrender, your ability to not panic. You didn't panic. I know it was terrifying, but you willingly died. You willingly went through that death and rebirth because you said, no, I know that I have no idea what the other side looks like. No clue, but I know it's going to be good because I trust. I trust my divine connection between me and my God, me and my source.
And there's something about ultimate trust that's like, if it's not real, then I shouldn't be trusting in it, right? And divine God, if you are the magnanimous all, then I can trust this, right? Because you're unshakable. You're unshakable. I'm
And
not the first one in history to do this, and I'm most certainly not going to be the last. And I love what you said about the surrender, because there's something about being a mystic that if you want to really activate your mystic nature, you got to get on board with a lot of deaths and rebirths, and you got to get on board with doing that properly, because you don't get the full rebirth, resurrection, unless you're willing to go all the way in and do the death and die and lose your
actually,
last breath, your last willingly go. That is my last breath. That is my last ounce of strength, or that is the last belief that I've been holding on to. And here it is. And to do that in intimacy with God, where your intimacy, you can actually almost reach the point of separation, where you go, I am not going to hold you and I to the small relationship where you have to be this, and I have to have full faith in you, and you have to show up this way, and you can never disappear, because that is not trust. That is not love. That is not infinite love. That is finite love, and it's conditional love. And it conditions you into a space where you begin to interact with God according to the limitations of your own soul. And then you project that onto God, onto the divine. And then you complain and say, oh, why is my life so small? And why does nothing ever work out? And why am I so frustrated? And why is my throat chakra blocked? And why do I have gut problems? And why are my hips so locked and so tight? And why, when I want to get up and dance, I don't know how to move my body because I'm so freaking restricted. And everything I keep manifesting in this life reflects a brokenness back to me that keeps telling me that my dreams aren't valid. That keeps telling me that who I am is not really who I think I am, because we're living from these projected limitations. And I promise you that God, the divine, who loves you more than anything in this whole world, who is love, who is the very seed inside of you, wants more for you than that broken mirror of a reality. So don't fucking settle.
Yes. Yes. And the only safety net you need. You don't need a plan B. You don't need to hold on to your beliefs and that smallness just in case, just until you find something better. That's not how God works. That's not how freedom works. That's not how this liberation works. The only plan B that you need is to trust that you will be course corrected if you are off course. To trust that, to go in with the full fuck yes and say, yes, you have my full yes. Show me. Oh, I got sidetracked here. Oh, I got off here. Okay, that's fine. Love leads. There are no more rules. There are no more rules to lead you because then love leads you. Love is the only rule you need. That's it. And to trust that love, to trust that you are so divinely loved that I'm using, old verbiage or, past verbiage, but that he loves you so much, that much, to actually course correct you, to not let you stay in deception, right? No,
Yeah.
my God loves me too much to let me stay in deception. So that's your
Yeah.
safety net is the trust. But you can't, I've seen so many people where they're holding on to the small, limited beliefs because, I'm going to hold on to this until I find something better. True liberation and true freedom and true spiritual awakening does not work like that. It just simply doesn't.
Yeah. And neither do expansive relationships. So, a vital part in every relationship is when you graduate from a codependent relationship into an interdependent relationship. And so, we've got to do the same thing with God. This is part of getting the God piece in our lives in deep alignment, because you can't really be your authentic self if you're not willing to like really go in that process, right? You're going to bump up against it in every setting until we're willing to face these almost like key tenets of the journey that help us to come into full embodiment. And so, if I'm in a codependent relationship with the divine, if I'm in a codependent relationship with the universe, I am limiting the flow of what's possible. And I'm actually not in true intimacy. I'm in a projected situation where you're just bouncing like wounds and small patterns, a lot of small looping patterns. Now, the problem with aspects of Christianity is it actually enforces that codependency, and it also enforces a level of invisibility. So I just want to return to that as well, where you are less important. You must shine less, or shine according to this lens only, so that God may be magnified through you. And that's not a healthy relationship, and that's not a thriving relationship, and that's not a relationship that I believe that God puts his or her approval on, because it's not freedom and it's not liberation and it's not healthy, and there's no way that you can fulfill your grand destiny that way. You will live in a projected destiny. And that projected destiny will keep these cycles and these places alive on this planet that are actually keeping people in a slave mindset.
That's
And so
a,
this thing runs so deep, is actually, where have you bought into a slave mindset and you're calling it freedom?
oof, that's exactly what God said to me. He used interesting verbiage. He said, Joy, I'm weaning you from your whoopee, your blanket, your security blanket. I have become your security blanket. I want you to be big and powerful. I am in you. There's no separation, but you are still using this lens, this view that that you need me. No, you've already got me. I'm no longer a blanket. I will not allow you to have the me that you think is your security blanket. And I felt so loved and I felt so held. And it was like God calling me to greatness without the smallness of I must, shrink so that you must be bigger, I must glorify you. How about the God in me being glorified? How about the God self being
Yeah.
glorified and actually living in that true freedom? It really kills the smallness. It really does. Yeah. So that's beautiful that moment that you had of God calling you out and asking you to put everything on the shelf and saying trust me. Trust me. Are you glad you did it?
Zero regrets. Best journey of my life. Best journey of my life. I've never felt better, you know? And you know how they say sometimes you gotta get a little worse to get better. But honestly, the whole thing looking back was exactly my flavor. So that's the thing is that it helps, this type of process helps you to get really honest about who you are and stop shaming the parts of you that you think don't fit in. Because that's how everyone ends up looking vanilla. That's how you get that whole, have you ever, everyone sees it. Like when you're all in a church, but everyone looks like each other. And you walk in and you're like, what's going on here? Like, why do you dress like you and you even your body posture and no one looks like an original? And then the one or two people who are an original are still, they're just a greater expression of that same frequency band, that same look and feel, that same, y'all all put the same color foundation on, like you're all using the same self tan, like spiritually speaking, energetically, you have the same color. And that used to bother me so much. And I'm a big fan of originality. And so part of this process of being freed from also who I think God wants me to be. And then there was a big thing in it where there's a moment where you're like, I've got to stop caring about who God wants me to be. And God is not going to be the dominant voice in my head. That's a big girl step. That's a big girl step, big boy step when you take that and you go, I'm not going to be the one who's like, oh, God, I just need to check what God thinks about this. What do you think about it? Can you get your own opinions back? Can you get your own sense of self back? Can you get your own ability to make decisions? Can you trust yourself? Can you trust yourself? And that's actually part of what this journey does, is it establishes this deeper self-trust. And so then in that, you start to trust the way that you are shaped and what you love, what makes you excited, what are you passionate about, what are aspects of yourself that you have previously suppressed and you, because they didn't fit in, now you have the freedom to discover them. And I think the most powerful thing in any space is if you can get past the lens of shame and judgment. If you can alchemize those, or for a better word, you can develop a better relationship with them, then if you stop looking yourself through the lens of shame, or you notice when you are looking through the lens of shame and you go, ooh, I feel really shameful about that. Why? Why? Where did that come from? Why do I think that's shameful? So like for me, you said it so beautifully before this, I'm a cosmic punch in the gut, right? And there are times when I've been like, just make me less potent. I just want to be the cute, likable, adorable girl that everyone's like, she's so great. She's so great. but I'm spicy. I'm spicy AF, you know? I'm kind, I'm loving, I'm beautiful, I'm harmonious, but I'm spicy as fuck. And if I turn that down, I'm doing a great disservice to the whole reason why I incarnated in this body and came here as this version of me. And I'm literally like spitting on creation. So, this process of not judging that and not shaming that, and actually getting into a much better relationship with, like, where's my inner judge? Because the inner judge is so strong in Christianity. Oh my Lord, if the inner judge is not the most superior being that we encounter in Christianity, in religion, in politics, as like a dominant entity almost. And so when we can reach that point of like, oh, I'm going to have a conversation with my inner judge and I'm going to find out, where am I judging who I actually am?
That's the patriarchy that comes through Christianity. That's the toxic masculine that we place on God, which then we adopt within ourselves. That toxic masculinity that then comes over our big, beautiful, flowing parts that wants to come alive and wants to actually bless others with the flow and with the beauty and with the spice. And it says, no, in judgment. That is not the God that we have known and have come to know. That is not, that is where the toxic masculinity then comes from. So it's actually like removing that masculine energy from ourselves, right? That and true safe masculinity that needs to flow within us with in a harmonious way is actually a covering. It's actually a yes. It's actually a permission. It's a safety. It's a, yeah, you go do that, and I'll cover you. Yes. Did you ever? We've talked a lot about the pendulum swing, and I want people to hear about the pendulum swing in your life as far as like the fear of, well, if I say yes to this, I'm going to go off the rails. I'm going to swing so far to the other side that I will hit a point of no return. And to know now that you've walked through this for years and I've witnessed, we've both done quite a few pendulum swings, right? And what else in our world doesn't, like, everything has a pendulum swing, you know? With the feminine liberation, it has to, I mean, that Me Too movement was so powerful of like, fuck no, you're not going to mess with me. But it did have to swing to an extreme to the point where people were like, okay, all right. And then it's starting to come back to an even more powerful space. And then we'll probably swing again. That's how shifts happen. That's how transformation happens. You've got to push to the edges. So can you explain and express maybe some ways that you have healthfully and safely gone into that pendulum swing of, okay, I'm going to go for it and trust that spirit will balance me out, that I don't have to manage that. I don't have to be the judge, constantly watching and observing and making sure it's, I mean, being the observer is very healthy, don't get me wrong. It's the watcher. It's the judge that is analyzing everything to make sure it's honoring to the Lord.
Which is exhausting. It's exhausting to constantly measure what you're doing according to, is it, can this be explainable? Can I get away with this? And I still find myself doing that. And we had a conversation a couple weeks ago where you called me out on that and you said, hey, you've literally just taken like the framework of an aspect of my work in one-on-one sessions with people. I'd taken the framework to, like, I'd sort of like carried it with me to go, in terms of the way that I will express myself and in terms of what I will allow myself to dive into, I can go big, right? Because I'm a big soul and I can hold range, emotional depth, emotional range, all that sort of stuff. But I had just kind of gone, well, I think I can still explain away like me to this point, which is way bigger than any size I've ever allowed myself to be before, but there was still a limitation. And I was thinking, would I still be able to be this and like still get away with having people like invite me to maybe come, like could I still be friends with Christians? You know what I mean? Like could I still, some of my ex-minister friends, they're still ministers, ex is me. Would they still like ever
I'm
talk
the
to me?
ex.
Yeah,
We make a
I'm
t-shirt.
next. I'm
I'm the
next.
ex. People would read that in so many different ways.
Literally.
Oh.
So okay, so with the pendulum swing, I would say, first of all, I've had wild years before, so it wasn't my first time being wild. And even though I was doing it through a different lens with certain things, there was definitely a discovery process of, this is part of the reclamation versus I'm just so unconscious to what I'm doing and I'm totally in my shadow self and I'm. So I think if you go into it with a sense of discovery, and the idea that you actually do need to push the limitations a little bit. It's
Absolutely.
it's very hard to say you're going to reclaim things, but tell yourself you can only reclaim up to this point, and you also have to get it perfect. You got to get your reclamation process perfect. That's part of the problem. So you got to lift off all those standards. You just have to, and you just got to trust that you'll be taken care of it in it. Um, and the thing that comes to mind for me, which has always been an anchor, is inherent innocence.
That's
That we
good.
are innocent. There is an innocent soul inside. And so, some of the darkest places that I've gone to, and this is the thing that always makes a little walk through hell much easier for me, is that I'm like, I'm actually there to, whether it's retrieve innocence, I'm there because innocence has actually led me into this place to go, this isn't darkness. This is part of the human experience because darkness, this is where shame comes in, says, that's so shameful. No one will ever look at that. And love will never find you here. Love will never find you here. And part of actually, now that I think about it, because I've not been asked this question before, but part of what I think about is like in some of those places where I needed to go back and I almost needed to revisit parts of myself that I had experienced through the lens of shame so deeply. What I allowed is in those spaces, I allowed love to come and meet me there. And I wouldn't leave until love met me there. And I wouldn't leave those parts of me who were being left behind, who had been told that they were shut out in the dark. There was that is a fierce reclamation to go through, is to say, I'm going to sit with those parts of me that have been exiled in this. And so whatever that pendulum swing is, if you trust it, it's not as violent, to be honest. And then you get the opportunity to have love meet you there. And that is very powerful. That alone will bring you back to your innocence.
And
The
doesn't that,
reminder of your innocence.
yes, the reminder that you are innately innocent. Yes.
Yeah.
And doesn't that smash and crush all fear? I think the more people I talk to, the more I realize that they, real fear is the fear of what's inside, those dark spaces that you so bravely sat with. That is the shadow work, that is the reclamation. Because when you sit with them, it starts to dissolve and you start to realize, oh, this fear was an illusion. This shame, the root of the shame is not who I truly am. And sitting with the shame, it starts to move, it starts to shift, and it starts to become wispy, and it vaporizes. It becomes part of your whole. So then you can actually move forward with way less fear. It honestly, this process makes you fearless. And in this space that I've been kind of working in, especially with the public deconstruction and going public and giving voice to others, a lot of times the idea of reconstruction actually means you stay in the rigid Christian faith. You enter back into it with slightly more freedom. It's beautiful. It's great. But we're not talking about reconstructing to return to the church or to even return to something that is called Christianity. Am I
Yes,
correct?
yes, 100%, 100%, 100%. So I can freely say, oh, I'm in such a great place with God. And that changes. But if you try to understand that through the lens of Christianity and the Christian God, no, I'm sorry, we're going to lose each other there, you know? And so, there's that phrase that says, you got to go through an ego death to meet me, because I won't make sense before that. And it's almost, that's where you transition to afterwards, which we've spoken about quite a lot, is like, how do you even put language? Because you don't want to be unrelatable, but there's some stuff that's just like, I can't go back there to that mentality, because I literally spent 4 years having that pulled out of me. I can't. So yeah, so reconstruction, not in the sense of back into Christianity. Like I wouldn't say I'm a Christian. No. You had mentioned something earlier around feeling like my soul was dying. And that's an interesting paradox to hold, right? So give a little bit of context. I'm no stranger to miracles. I'm no stranger to the power of God. I'm no stranger to being stayed in the spirit. I'm no stranger to that level of connection of like, I've touched the divine. Touched it. So the whole paradox between that and I am dying because I don't feel like I can be my authentic self here was trippy, very
That's
trippy. And
yeah.
obviously, I ran from that for as long as I could, because I was like, but I'm all good because I'm blessed with this connection with the Spirit of God. I'm blessed with my connection with Holy Spirit. I have touched the divine. I'm not afraid of mystic states. In fact, I love them. They're my home, places of ecstatic bliss. And I still have that. That's the beautiful thing. It also transforms, and there's way more range, because it's not just through what looks biblical. Um, but to go through that and then go, my soul is dying. My soul is dying because I can't be in this authentic expression. And this process has given me that back. And that's the thing. If there was one thing I could gift everybody with on this podcast, and who's going through this process right now, is that authenticity, coming back into your authenticity, it is worth it. I cannot even begin to tell you how. Please don't assume that if you don't feel fully alive being yourself, there's more. And going through this process to come into the embodiment of who you are, to feel what it feels like to truly be you, to actually enjoy being you, not just a little bit, but like fall in love with being you. And to walk through this world and talk to people without a veil covering you,
That's right.
without a mask that you're wearing that you feel twisted up inside. What it does to your body. I'm very big into embodiment. Body embodiment has been one of the home bases that this journey has led me into, which I never had access to before. And that's the other thing that I wanted to say, is that like there are parts of you that until you unlock this authenticity and until you stop filtering yourself through the lens of like a false lens, and that can be Christianity, but that can also be society's projections, cultural projections, family projections, blah blah blah. We are programmed to the absolute maximum. Okay, that is what this whole journey has been about. So you don't get authenticity till you deprogram. It just don't happen. It doesn't happen. Okay. So, but when you do deprogram and you do come into that authenticity, those parts of you that when in your mind's eye, when you close your eye and you envision like, oh, that's my higher self, that's me, and she or he feels quite like far away, almost like just here, like just out of reach all the time. This process changes that it's no longer you like out of reach here, but it's one step until one day it goes, boom, you arrive in your body. And those gifts that were previously inaccessible to you, those things that you were like, I can't, and I just don't feel like I'm really living my life, switches on. And you actually start to get to experience what it's like to love your life, to love being on this planet. I used to wish I wasn't on this planet, not from a place that like I wanted to unalive myself. Although that's a whole different topic around, the mystical root of suicidal ideations, because that is a vital part of the growth process, to embrace what that wants to teach you. But I just didn't, I couldn't arrive in my body because I was so disconnected. And I look back and I thought that was normal, and it's not. It's not normal. It's not normal to feel like your feet don't want to land fully and ground into Mother Earth. It's not normal for you to not be connected to your energy centers in your body. It's not normal for you to not have a conversation with your organs, and for you to feel your skin and your fascia, and to experience what it's like to have your sensual energy flow through your body, and your creativity and your vital life force and your sexuality and your expression and your ability to like talk in your natural voice, not this so much. God is good, or like whatever it is that you put on. Take that shit off. Get it off.
Oh,
And do whatever it takes to get it off, because it'll be worth it. And you'll say thank you to your own soul for saying yes.
that's right. That's right. Oh, I want to speak to the divine feminine and oof, how Christianity just locks that down. I do want to also continue on with you had said that you have always been a mystic. And what I want people to hear and what I want people to know, I know that there are so many platforms and there's so many voices out there who have left Christianity, left God, left Jesus, whatever, you name it. There's all these different flavors. And maybe they've stepped into atheism, and that's okay. Maybe they've replaced that religion for another religion, like New Age or a philosophy like Buddhism, and they've actually put their stake in the ground somewhere else, and that's okay too. I want people to hear through your story that you don't have to leave everything behind. Some people have, and that's fine. That's what serves them. But the best parts of your walk with God, the best parts of your divine dance, you got to take with you. And so I'd love for you to speak to that as far as what is the same frequency that is continuing to be woven from the old life and into the new. I almost want to say I want to almost say it backwards because the true old is the original. You have come back to your original you, not a new you. You are now the original Kate. That religion, Christianity, doctrine, dogma tried to lay layers on top of you to hide parts of you that needed to be free and alive so that you could impact the world. So if
Mm.
there's, I just want people who are in Christianity right now or maybe questioning, I want them to hear that's like, oh, maybe I want it to be an encouragement that maybe, oh gosh, this buzz, this feeling of just I'm not quite settled right now. I'm not quite, why have I not found my total freedom? Why do I not feel fully me? And the fact that like you can, yeah, but if I go that route, if I go that path, I'm gonna have to leave everything behind. And I don't want to do that. And I know that that was scary for both of us. We were called to literally put a pin in every single aspect of Christianity, of our relationship with God, what we believed. I mean, we had to seriously wipe the slate clean, um, or at least put things on the shelf for a while. And then we went through a process of, okay, actually, I get to keep this. Oh, and this, I get to keep that too. And it's different for everybody. It's a different journey for everybody, but I want to hear how you got to keep the most beautiful aspects of your dance with God and the divine flow that you actually found you began in Christianity, but now you've stepped out of it and brought it with you.
Mm. So I want to make it clear so that there's freedom in this. I had my journey led me to a 0 point reset. So I can speak freely now from an integrated place of having things. Okay, yes, but there was a 0 point where it was like almost cut off, you know, just not almost, it was. And I remember the 0 point so clearly. And I was like, that's it. And it was a very, very deep moment. And um, I don't feel to share exactly what God said in that moment because I feel like maybe that should come in a part 3 or a part 2. Um,
I
uh,
love it.
let's
We're so
save
outside of
some.
time and space. You jumped to part three before you said part two. I know
Yeah.
it's like we're going to be doing this again and again and again. Yes.
Yeah, because that's the part where most, a lot of people, well, part one where, God said jump is already, we lose a couple along the way there. That's a couple tune out. Can't compute that in my brain. So now when we get to the 0 point reset and what God said there is, you know, it's a little bit of a hard pill to swallow for a lot of people, but for the ones who freedom brings. So yeah, stay tuned for part 3. Um, but yeah,
I love it.
the advanced,
Yes.
the advanced
The
discussion,
advanced podcast.
the advanced masterclass. And so that 0 point, what it felt like in my system was ultimate liberation, but at the time it was to face my deepest fear, which is to lose absolutely everything, and to lose my connection with God, to completely lose it. What occurred on the other side of that, and allowing that to happen, allowing that final death to happen, was then things slowly started to like filter back, because now it was coming from a place where it wasn't obligation. It
Right.
wasn't what I had
Right.
to believe. It wasn't like, well, if I believe this, then I have to believe that, like, because it's all connected in this paradigm or in this story. It was like, okay, we're literally okay. And things just started to integrate back. And there was, in some ways, a reconstruction, although that feels chunky on the other side, because
Reconst
deconstruction is like chunky, right? When
and
you deconstruct,
reconstruction.
it's like
Yeah,
walls coming
that.
in and just whacking the whole building down, and you're like, ah, what is going on? It's too much. And you feel bricks being removed out of the foundation. So reconstruction, because on the other side, it's like not as linear. That's one of the things you let go of, is a linear understanding.
Well,
No, and that feels really good to say. Like, that would just be defining me according to There's so many. I'm already thinking of like a couple of part two and part three conversation topics that are so lit. They're so lit. They're so lit.
Oh, we're gonna get into the nitty-gritty. Girl,
Yeah,
we're gonna do it. It's happening. Yes.
yeah.
On
Around like
part two.
historical origins of, the thought process of actually taking people's power away from them so that people aren't sovereign anymore. Basically at this point, I mean, I can say all the things that have come back to me, right? I'm not sure if I'd even be able to define them in one, two, three, four, five things. But what I can say
There.
is that things
Yeah.
do come back to you, and you should have the full permission to have things come back to you because it's liberation. It's not going into another regime that now constricts you.
You're not
And
stepping into another tribe, another camp,
some
another
people
set of
do,
rules. Another set of
and
rules.
that's cool if you do want to do that. But I also want to encourage people, like, just check if you have deconstructed fully, if you're not just trading one limited reality for another.
Well, let me just say that, speak to that. It is extremely scary to let go of your security blanket, of your beliefs, the certainty that you were raised in oftentimes, right? And then to keep that empty space and hold that takes a lot of expansion to then not go panic. It's more of a subconscious panic. I don't think we're all of, we're conscious of that to then grab onto another certainty and go, okay, okay, I found something better. Now, that's not to say that people can't grab onto this and then let go. Oh, and then grab onto that. It's like another rung on the ladder, right? Okay, this feels good. This feels safe. That's fair. I think we've all done that to some degree, but you and I have walked this road long enough, especially together, where we'll call each other and be like, I think this is truth. I think this is what I believe, and then come to find out a month later, we're like, yeah, that's not no, but I can take a little bit of that with me. But it's still that holding everything with an open hand. It's not white knuckling anything. And I think Christianity comes with a lot of white knuckling. And that's what breeds, I've talked about this before on my TikTok. It breeds a lot of hate and a lot of meanness and because it stems from fear. White knuckling is fear-based. When you do this and you're like, I don't know. I don't know. And I don't have any great answers to give you other than what I've experienced and the freedom and the fruit that I find within the stability, the joy, the peace, the intense love for myself and for others. Nobody can take that away from me. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you walking in and dancing in now that is so life-giving and so much freedom on the other side of deconstruction and deconversion? For you, it's
Mm,
deconversion.
yeah. So I think on the other side, I feel the most alive that I've ever felt. I feel the most connected and clear. Um, some very specific things around my femininity. I feel the most feminine as I've ever been, but also the most powerful as a woman. My voice has started to unlock. And so, where I found it difficult to speak my authentic truth, and where I found it difficult to speak authentic truth, because there's speaking your personal expression of how you're experiencing something, and then also the ability to, like, I'm going to say, channel divine truth, because there is some things that are just, they just is, man. It do be like that. And finding the confidence in that. In terms of my soul expression on the planet, I finally am experiencing a level of clarity. I've had the practical freedom to step into everything from astrology through to sensual embodiment, through to I lead embodiment dance classes now. And currently I'm streaming a modality through with that, that really just helps women to come home, no, more than come home to their bodies. I like actually love to see women in their full glory and their hotness, like to be an absolute babe, because that's not something that we're allowed to be. You can't, don't be a babe, you know.
Right.
For your husband, sure, you know, but not like, don't be magnetic and the type of woman that walks in a room and people go, you know, like don't like play that down. So I've been able to turn that up a lot more. And not in a way that I feel like I'm projecting my sexuality into the world either. So I went through that phase, and that was a beautiful phase. And I honor the
Yeah.
version of me that went through that as she learned to release all of that sexual energy that had been so blocked up, so blocked up. And sexual energy is creative energy. So it's the two have gone hand in hand. My beauty has increased. I feel more beautiful. I feel beautiful in a way that doesn't feel caged. And like there's no ransom's not the right word, but there are no conditions on that beauty. So I've been able to really one form of deconstruction leads to other forms of deconstruction. So then you're able to do things like decenter yourself from the masculine gaze because you have a confidence in the process. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah, that's key.
yeah, so key. I've been able to venture into areas like touch therapy that I actually do with my clients because I'm not afraid of touching somebody's body now. Whereas in Christianity, oh my, you get a side hug. Lucky you if you get a front hug and make sure your bum's all the way out there, like all the way out there. Don't you dare do a boob graze. Like, don't you boob graze. Don't you boob
Definitely
graze
not.
that man by accident. And I've got pretty God has blessed me. Okay. So
I
for to
know, it's
walk
so
through all
funny.
of that,
Like, how does
it's
that
so
even work? It's
funny.
like, how do you
Listen.
do a true hug without feeling the other person's body? And come on. And this is what needs to get unlocked. This is for another time. We're gonna talk about this. But when you release that shame, what did you say? You said something beautiful about from a man's gaze. What did you say?
Oh, decentering yourself from the masculine gaze.
Thank you. Ah, that's
And that's
beautiful.
both the shadow side of it and the, you know, the doing it for him to be attractive for a man.
There you go.
It's also to hide from being attractive to men. And that is what we're taught in Christianity is like hide that, you know.
Yeah.
Oh, and we're gonna have a whole conversation around that for women because you know, so that's the other thing I was mentioning. Like I've got so God has blessed me with beautiful boobs, and those always had to be hidden. And so, just a very practical thing when we're talking about a practical translation of freedom. As a minister, my wardrobe had to look a certain way because I was forever trying to cover up body parts. I mean, there was this one time I was on a mission trip in Uganda, and I had this dress that showed, like, we're talking one finger above the knee. Okay, that's one finger above the knee, just on the one side because it angled down really, really beautifully. I could not get the crowd's attention off of my knee because they had sexualized my knee so deeply because knees were the forbidden fruit in Uganda,
And in
in the
some
Ugandan
cultures,
church.
that's fair. Yes, absolutely. Yes. And that and
Right.
and we do need to honor those cultures. And there is just something that needs to be transformed in that too. Maybe you're not called to that space, but it's like, yeah, like we need to not be ashamed to show parts of our body because there's this construct of shame and
Exactly.
the inability to have self-control for
Yeah,
men to have self-control.
absolutely. And so Breaking past that fear barrier. And my wardrobe has always been something that has been a core soul expression for me and a marker of how embodied I feel in my true self. And so, not having limitations on having to cover certain body parts, and not have to, like, now I love to have my chest open, and I'll do this for you guys so you can see I'm not being obscene. Okay, but you can just see, like, that's a normal halter neck top. I would never be able to wear that in Christianity before. I wouldn't. You can't. I would not wear this to church. I still would not wear this to church. Please don't get me wrong. Like, if I gotta go on Easter or something, this is not what
Definitely
I'm gonna
not,
do.
girl. Definitely
But
not.
I get to wear this now in my everyday life. And for me, what it's done is energetically, it's opened up my chest area where my heart is, because I'm an open hearted soul. I'm no longer covering my heart. And so it's very practical things like this that start to ground you into a tangible experience of a new life. And I can give millions of examples of the ways that it's impacted my life in that. But to me, that is a beautiful one, because for so many women feeling so locked up in their body, I now have the openness of an open chest. And the way that I get to walk through the world with that, with my open heart, and acknowledging that, hey, like, these boobs were not made to be squished under a squishy little top that makes me look fat. I get to be beautiful, and I get to be curvy, and I get to be me. And yeah, so big changes, big changes. It's been a lot. This is just the beginning. That's one thing I always say to myself, and I'll finish out with that. Like, it's only just the beginning.
That's right. The adventure continues.
And I didn't mention this, but energy work as well has been a huge thing that's come in. That the whole language code of energy, which was forbidden in Christianity,
Mhm.
and maybe French. If you super lucky as a French person, you can incorporate that.
There
But
you go. Yeah.
energy is a big thing that has shifted my entire world. It's shifted the way that I manifest. It's shifted how I show up in business. It's shifted how I show up in everyday life, in relationships, in understanding the world, understanding the patterning of how the world works. So it's literally given me my language back that was like my native tongue.
That's
And of
beautiful.
course, I now get to do all of this with union with God. So you do get to have the best of both worlds if you're willing to walk through the underworld to go reclaim it.
That's right. I can't say it any better. It's beautiful. It's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for showing up as you. Thank you for who you are and your bravery. Thank you for your magic that you bring to the world and your light, your surrender.
For this incredible space that you're holding for people. Like, this light is available because of you, because you've stepped into your light and because you've stepped into your voice. And you know that I 1,000 million gazillion percent support you in this soul mission that you have, and creating this incredible bridge for people to walk across with so much ease and so much support, and to know that they're not alone. And I love your embodiment. I love that you decided to come here as everything that you've put together as you, how you came, this you, like in this version, in this reality, in this lifetime.
Thanks so much for joining us. Remember, you don't need saving. You're already sacred. Until next time.